Hey guys, welcome back to Brian's Mysteries and Adventures on Trail. And today's video is going to be slightly different. I am going to be covering a missing hiker, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about in these missing hiker cases. This is going to be one that went missing on the Pacific Crest Trail. So I'm just also going to talk about that area and possible ways for hikers that are planning going out this year or any time to possibly avoid getting lost or maybe running into the same problems, because this particular area of the trail is very confusing and challenging, the side trails especially. So with that said, today we're going to be discussing the disappearance of Randy Charles Spring, who disappeared in October of 1988. Randy was born on January 25th, 1960, and he's got green eyes, a light complexion, no tattoos, blonde collar-length hair, about 5 foot 11 inches tall and 180 pounds. He was last seen wearing camouflage pants, dark colored t-shirt, army green jacket, and an army green backpack. On the morning of October 10th, 1988, Spring asked to be dropped off at the intersection of Whitewater and Interstate 10 in Riverside, California, just to spend a few days hiking. So he asked his mom to drop him off, and his mom dropped him off about 6:30 in the morning. He had planned to try and attempt the north side of Mt Jacinto, and then he said that he would either hitchhike back home or he would, call back. The last actual sighting of him was between noon and 1 p.m. That day at the base of the mountains, and he basically hasn't been seen since. Randy is a U.S. Army veteran who worked for the California Department of Forestry at the time of his disappearance, and was also a volunteer firefighter with the Bostonian, California Fire Department. And he was very well trained. He was trained actually in survival skills, and he had been working as a volunteer firefighter for several years. He had taken all the tests and passed all the the training certifications, because this is something that he wanted to actually pursue as a career. So this was a guy that was very well suited for the outdoors. He had lots of experience, not only in his army training, but as a firefighter. He was obviously well trained and a very physically fit young man. He was only 28 years old at the time of his disappearance. And really, this area of Mt Jacinto, it can often be very misleading, or it's a very dangerous part of the trail, because there's several approach trails. There's lots of different trails that are not connected to the PCT, but just off like different hunting trails. And this is actually an area where a lot of people do end up getting injured on the Pacific Crest Trail, or even perishing, because if they do attempt to summit Mt Jacinto, it can be very challenging, especially in heavy snow years. So if anyone else is planning on attempting the Pacific Crest Trail this year or anytime, and there's heavy snow, just really make sure that you have the proper equipment to do the San Jacinto and know the trails, because there are all kinds of trails going up that mountain, and then also trails going into the town of Idlewild in the area. And it's just, it is an easy area to get lost. I'm not saying that's what happened with Randy. We really don't know. But the main theory of the investigating agency is that he suffered some sort of fall or died of exposure. And here's a guy who was in his prime, so only 28 years old, very physically fit, had U.S. Army survival training, was a firefighter. And I guess my point is that, you can be an expert hiker, and this area is still very dangerous. But if you look at this map, which is the Guthooks map of the PCT, which is marked in red, and then all the little dark blue are different side trails and trails on Mt Jacinto, or going up to Mt Jacinto, or coming off the PCT that go into Idlewild. So as you can see, there's a lot, and especially in heavy snow years, it's very easy to get turned around. And these are just the trails that are actually marked on the Guthooks app. There are a lot more. So if you are planning on attempting this area, just plan ahead and make sure you have the proper equipment if it is a heavy snow year. And even if it isn't, just have a plan and make sure you've researched which trail you're going to do or how you're going to do it. I've covered several cases on my channel that all happened around this area. John Donovan and David O'Sullivan both went missing right in this general area. So this is now the third person that I've covered that has gone missing in this Mount San Jacinto region. And sadly, it doesn't end there. In the class of 2020, just this past year, one young Pacific Crest Trail hiker fell to his death right in this Mount San Jacinto area. I'm not trying to trail fearmonger or anything like that. All I'm trying to say is that, use your best judgment and know what you're capable of. And whatever you do, don't let pride or stubbornness or, pressure from other hikers, or feel like, you're not going to be as good if you don't do this part of the trail, or if you feel like you can't handle it, don't do it. I'm not ashamed to admit that in 2019, in my first attempt of the PCT, it was a crazy high snow year, a record snow, and there was no way in hell that I was going to attempt San Jacinto. I know a lot of people did, and that's great. It's a great feat for them. But me, I got there and I was like, no, not happening. But that's the great thing about the trail. It's always going to be there, and you can always come back and try again, or when the conditions are better, or when you feel more prepared. That was my first year and first through hike, and just made the decision that I was not going to do that Mount San Jacinto part. My point is that in a lot of these cases, I feel like, some of them, like with Randy, it's such an older case that the odds are that he has perished in some way. But I'm hoping that, we can maybe prevent some of these kind of accidents or things from happening in the future. And, who knows, maybe Randy did just decide to go off and live his life somewhere, but it's just highly doubtful based on like his friends and his family. Now, he was leading a good life and knew what he wanted to do. He had been training for years with the volunteer firefighters, like I said, and he was very into becoming a full-time career firefighter. This is something that he discussed all the time. He was very excited about. And, the morning of this hike, like I said, he was dropped off 6:30 in the morning, and the last he was seen was somewhere between 12 and 1 p.m., and he was never seen again. And this is a guy that was, a skilled, he was trained specifically in the Army for survival, and was also a firefighter. So obviously he was very physically fit. And, who knows what happened. It's most likely that he had a fall of some kind or an accident. A guy like this who is, trained basically for the outdoors and the wilderness. And it's obviously a sad case, and I had a lot of close friends and family. This is an age-progressed picture of Randy, basically what he would look like in 2009. Unfortunately, it's the last I could find. Search and rescue on this case actually did get a good jump on the case. They knew Randy was missing fairly early on that day when he didn't make contact with his mom. Like I said, he was supposed to hitchhike or call his mom for a ride home, and this obviously never happened. Or maybe this is exactly what happened. Maybe he tried to was hitching a ride home and he got picked up by, a bad person. But, he seemed to be like the type of person that could handle himself, but I guess you never know. But search and rescue in this case were aware of him missing right away. And so they were able to get a good jump on the search efforts, and they did an extensive search of all the surrounding areas. And unfortunately, that area is just so vast. And this was back in 1988, so they didn't have a lot of the technology or the readily available technology and the amount of teams that they have available in our neoteric society. They obviously had manpower and went out with dogs and helicopters, but they did an extensive search, and not a trace of him was ever found. And obviously his family was torn apart by this. I mean, just imagine, his mom dropped him off thinking that he'd be back in 2 or 3 days, and that was the last time she ever saw him, or anybody ever saw him. And, this was back before cell phones or any of the modern technology that we have now. And even with that technology, it still can be, it's easy to get lost, or things can happen. So it's always good to take extra precautions and just be prepared. If you have any information regarding this case, you can contact the Riverside County Sheriff's Department at 951-922-7100, and that's the case number listed there. It is still an active open case. Randy was last seen wearing camouflage pants, a dark blue t-shirt, and an army green jacket. He was also carrying an army green backpack at the time he disappeared, which was thought to contain some Tupperware full of food. And that's really all the information I have on this case, guys. There wasn't a lot out there, so I'm just sending thoughts and prayers, of course, to his family and friends. I did read a couple of posts from, certain friends that knew him since he was a kid and are just, still wondering and hopeful that, this might be solved one day, or he might be found. So please, as always, keep the comments respectful if you choose to leave them. And yeah, just dedicating this video to Randy Charles Spring, a U.S. Army veteran, who then went on to dedicate his life to public service. So just wanted to say thank you, Randy, for your service, and thoughts and prayers go out to you and your family and friends. And thank you, everybody, for watching, and stay healthy and safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.